All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today's subject of discussion is rather interesting. And I'm going to start off with a question, and perhaps some of you guys in the comments can relate, whether it's been in the past or whether it's in the present or whatever. But do you guys ever get like singled out or hated or kind of get like a negative vibe thrown your way simply because of the fact that it has become known that you enjoy video games and or are a gamer? And I really like the fact that, like, even in 2024, granted, where we live in an era now in 2024 where it's quote unquote more socially acceptable to be a gamer or whatnot, this still happens today. Like even the industry itself, despite it being a multi billion dollar industry, um, is something where its community is greatly disrespected. Now, I would like to say that in some ways, in some ways, it I don't want to say it's like justified or whatnot. I mean, there is such a thing for a few individuals as video game addiction to where like they have to like where people are obviously like skipping work because they're just so hooked on video games and stuff like that. There are people like that. There's no doubt about it. However, that's not the entire community. It's very interesting uh how we're all assumed to be like that. It's kind of like assuming that every pit bull out there is, you know, is gonna attack you from when it sees you or whatnot, right? And that's where it gets very interesting because when it comes to gaming and gamers, a lot of people that are gamers that enjoy gaming for multiple hours out of the day or whatnot, that are not necessarily addicted, are kind of, in a sense, put in a specific type of category or categories to where, oh, gaming is bad, or you're just wasting your time, or you're a gamer, and then they start treating you like a certain way. Like, I've been gaming for over 3 decades, and I grew up in an era to where once you got to a certain age, just and it was a young age too, especially like when you were done with high school or close to being done to high school, like when you were a junior or senior or whatnot, people would be like, wow, they kind of would look down upon you for gaming. Even people that are around your age range that never really got into video games or stopped video games, like let's say after middle school or whatnot, and the fact that you still like gaming, they kind of push you away or whatnot. Hell, you can even be on the basketball team, and there's even a few people like on the team or whatnot. They're just having a conversation, and then all of a sudden they find out that you enjoy play video games on your spare time or whatever, and all of a sudden they start treating you like, kind of like nothing changed from elementary school up until now or whatnot. It's very interesting, and even in 2024, it still kind of shocks me. So, because when I first started playing video games, it was in the early 90s. And obviously, it was something that was mainly something that was just catered towards kids. And then for me personally, it was just something that never stopped because there would be constant new consoles coming out, new games. You would see the new generation of games, and therefore games would be cooler and stuff like that. And they would be like more sophisticated, more graphically impressive, et cetera, et cetera. So the gaming world would grip you, but at the same time, it's like what like don't get me wrong, I still went outside and played. I lived in an era to where a lot of kids were going outside and playing, riding their bikes, playing sports, or just hanging out in the neighborhood and just doing whatever the neighborhood kids do, right? And then when the sun started to go down, obviously everybody had to go inside. And, some kids would just eat dinner, do their homework, and then go straight to bed. My ass would be eating dinner, doing homework if I hadn't had it done already, and playing video games until it was time to go to bed if it was a school night. But on weekends, I'd just be doing it more. I didn't have a curfew to go to bed at night, and I just gamed until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, or I watched movies, did whatever I wanted. But at the same time, gaming had always been a part of my life. So it's like it really is amazing, because like I told you guys, for those of you guys that have been around for a while, there was this little GameStop story. I was 19. I was either 19 or 20 when Halo 2 was released, and I went to GameStop the following day after release or whatnot, um, to go pick up a copy with my friends, and I was 19 years old or so. And there was another guy that was in his 30s that was up there getting the game too, and I was like, "Huh, you're getting the game too?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, man." He's like, "Listen, man, this is what I do. I've got a girlfriend, I've got a job, I've got this going on, and then I've got I've got my gaming thing, and I got the gym, I got the gaming thing, I got the girl, I got my job. I'm good. So I was like, huh, okay, that bit put a big smile on my face. And I think that's when I started to realize that gaming is bigger than what I thought it was, right? Because in the back of my mind at age 19, I was like, well, there's not as many people as you think gaming or whatnot, or it's still not as socially acceptable. And then once you start reading online that Halo 2 broke all sorts of records, you start to think to yourself, you're like, and then you think about that GameStop experience, you're like, maybe this is starting to go beyond just, people like me who just enjoy it, because when you look at it, there are so many different ways that you can waste your time. Ultimately, when we're not working or whatnot, or when we're not learning something or whatever, we're basically, wasting our time doing other things that we enjoy, uh, whether it's playing fantasy football, whether it's going out to the bar with the homies or whatever it is. I mean, it's all a different version of wasting time. And the fact that video games is still looked at, is put in a certain type of category to this day, just kind of blows my mind. I mean, on one hand, I can kind of understand where these other people are coming from because of the era and generation that I grew up in. But at the same time, going back to the whole gaming addict thing, is that, well, number one, there are all sorts of addicts in all sorts of different areas of life, right? Not just gaming or whatnot. So at the same time, it's like, we gotta, to a certain degree, if anything, we need to like try to, help these people that are like overly addicted or just addicted or whatnot. It's either you're addicted or you're not. Because there really are a small percentage of people out there that literally like can't stop playing. Like they'll play all day, they'll sleep or whatnot. They have a hard time going to work because they're still gaming or whatnot, or they'll be late all the time or whatnot. Again, small percentage, but at the same time, I mean, if anything, if you know someone like who's like, let's say you have a close friend who's addicted to like some sort of substance, for instance, or whatnot, if you're their friend or if you know them or whatnot, you want to do something to help them. And it's the same thing with gaming. We got to treat it the same way as everything else. But at the same time, when it comes to being a gamer, it's like we have our very specific type of category, and I can go on and I know all sorts of different categories. I know all sorts of different examples or whatnot. Like I know a couple, for instance, that are now married, and she basically limits his time to how much he can game. Like first of all, like he can't game on weekdays. He can only game on weekends, and whenever he does on weekends, he's only limited to like an hour or two at most or something like that. And whether he's someone who games as much as, like, let's say the average person or less or whatever it is, or whatnot, that's really going to depend. And it's like, no, I'd rather have you be doing stuff with me instead of just sitting in front of the TV and playing a PlayStation or whatever. And then at the same time, there's those people out there that are not getting disrespected for watching sports all day, like on a football Sunday. But at the same time, if the person has a day off on Sunday, like me, for instance, and I prefer, I don't watch football, so instead I play video games because that's my jam. So it's like all of a sudden it's like a person like me is gonna be, is gonna be grilled for doing something that they like, that's a hobby or whatnot. So I just really find it fascinating how so many people uh see one aspect, see it from a very specific angle, and not many others. Like for instance, here's one thing. I know a few people that have literally been kept out of trouble because they ended up loving video games, because they would have certainly gotten in trouble growing up, because whether it was the company that they hung out with, or they were just prone to getting in trouble because they were a little bit more, let's say, quote unquote, adventurous in their life growing up, or even beyond high school and stuff like that. The fact that they fell in love with like a multiplayer shooter, for instance, or just gaming in general, was something that kind of kept them out of trouble, because they ended up spending more time gaming, which therefore kept them out of trouble and kept them from making mistakes that could have actually landed them in jail or in trouble with the law. Like, and not necessarily something major, but just something minor that can still put you behind bars for like overnight or whatever, or whatever the deal is. You know what I mean? So I just find the subject very, very interesting, and I would really love to know in the comments section like any examples or anything specific that you guys have been have experienced, because I'm sure there's everything from the examples that I just mentioned from school and fellow peers or whatnot, to to everything going on to this day. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are some people out there that it's like like for instance, everything's cool when you're on your first date or whatnot. Hey, what do you like? Name a few things that you like to do on your spare time, and then you mention gaming, and they're like, yeah, I'm good, or something like that. I'm pretty sure there are people out there that have had those experiences, even in the year 2024. So yeah, with that being said, I want to know down in the comment section, do you have you ever been hated on um, or criticized for enjoying video games despite the fact of your age or whatever the deal is or whatnot? Obviously, if you're younger, if you're like in your mid-teens or lower or something like that, you might not experience it as much, especially in this generation, where it's more socially acceptable. But with that being said, for especially for those of us that are a little bit older than that, it's like I'm pretty sure that somebody has had some sort of experience, and that's something that I would really like to know down below. And yeah, where do you guys think this whole gaming thing is going? Do you guys think it's going to be do you think we've reached our peak in terms of it being more socially acceptable now, or do you guys think it's going to be even more of a thing in the future? Do you think we're still going to continue to go in this direction to where gaming gets just as big as sports, for instance, whether you're just playing casual games or whether you're playing competitive shooters or whatnot? Where do you guys think that this is going? And as far as social things go, where do you guys think this is going as well? So anyway, that pretty much concludes this conversation. I would really like to know what your take is down below, as well as some of your experiences for those of you guys that are willing to share. Thank you all very much for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.